Fantastic. So I'm here with Suzi Rixon with Let It Go and Flow, and we're just going to find out about Bach flower therapy. Now, Suzi, okay, so he devised his own therapy, effectively, related to homeopathy. So his life's work was to understand what flower essences and tree essences and how that could heal people. What would a typical treatment look like for flower therapy? How would that come about? What would that look like?
It sounds really extraordinary, doesn't it? And yet, if we think about a modern drug that we use nowadays, how many people take aspirin?
Tons, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Don't think twice about it.
No. And where does aspirin come from? It comes from the bark of the willow tree. Right. And has done for centuries. Mm. So what we're talking about is not ridiculous. It's not airy-fairy or witchy. Dr. Bach was hugely intuitive and very gifted, but what he did and what I continue to do to this day, in fact, has been practiced for so many centuries. Mm. Nowadays, for me to give somebody Bach flower therapy, to use a Bach flower essence, I rely on the blossoms of a plant or a tree being put into spring water, giving their essence, being stabilized, the vibrations being stabilized, and then being measured, putting into drops into a bottle. So going from a mother tincture of the original mixture of whatever number of flower essences we need, and then ultimately using a dropper to put 2 or 3 drops into a glass of water, a cup of tea, anything that you drink, gin and tonic, doesn't matter. These flower essences will help you no matter what the medium.
Right. Okay. So during a visit, how do you decide what essences to... I mean, for each person, I mean, you're saying we're all different, though we both suffer, we all suffer from the stresses and strains of everyday life. I think that's a common thing.
Absolutely.
And we're all in relationships, and we have work and all those sort of things with stresses and strains. How is it you decide what essence is right for each individual person? What is the process that you use?
Well, that's a very good question, and for this I am eternally grateful to my tutor, Anna Jeffroy Salmon. She and her late husband, Philip Salmon, have written books on Bach flower essences. And Anna and Philip were unique in discovering the correlation between the emotional groups into which Dr. Bach put his mixture of flower essences and the colours that Dr. Bach chose himself. And Anna and Philip realised, before anybody else did, that these were identical to the 7 chakras or centres of energy that we all have in our bodies.
Yeah.
So, for example, I feel that the simplest way to get this across to people who will switch off instantly when anybody mentions chakras, possibly, but we have 7 bodily chakras. We have the crown, the brow, the throat, the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the base chakra.
Yeah.
All of these have different colours, and the best way to remember these is the way that we remember the colours of the rainbow. Richard of York gave battle in vain.
Yeah.
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Dr. Bach, without even realising it, put his group of emotional groups of flower essences into these colours. So, for example, the base chakra. Base chakra is despondency or despair, in his words. When I look at somebody who needs grounding, I think of a tree with very, very deep roots.
Yeah.
So, to help them be grounded, they will most likely need sweet chestnut, larch, pine, elm, oak. Now, we know these are trees. We know they couldn't survive winds and turbulence unless their roots were deeply embedded in the ground. Then we go on to sacral chakra, which is the fear emotional group. Mimulus is a good example. Fear of known things. Fear of speaking in public. Fear of flying. Mimulus is a fabulous remedy. Solar plexus, uncertainty, imbalance. Scleranthus, perfect example. One where you're dithering, where you can't work out which path to take. You can see that this can go on forever. Heart chakra, oversensitiveness to influence and ideas. Agrimony. For those of us that put on a brave face and yet possibly might just think, right, before I go on and do this, I'm going to have a gin and tonic. It's a typical example of agrimony. Walnut, another one that is everybody should have in their cupboard. It's universally wonderful for change of all types. Whether you're going through teething, puberty, menopause, moving house, any form of change in your life, changing jobs, any set of circumstances. And so it is. There are too many for me to put into this interview for you, but they are quite fascinating.
The other thing you mentioned as well is, which I found fascinating, given that a lot of therapies revolve around things that happened in the past, and you mentioned the link between the ages of man and the chakras. And I found that very interesting because a lot of work I've done with people where challenges in the main area between 0 and 7 in that main development area can cause major challenges, and you say that relates to the base chakra. So could you just explain about that, because I found that fascinating, that
Absolutely.
Correlation as well.
And with great pleasure, because one of the things that I forgot to point out was that Anna taught me how to use a pendulum to dowse.
Yeah.
So when I have a client, whether they are a toddler or a troubled teenager, anybody of any age, it could be an animal, it doesn't matter. But certainly in terms of human beings that have had periods of stress in their lives and that are going through stress currently, I use a pendulum to dowse which drops they need, simply by putting my hand on their forearm and letting the pendulum choose the drops. This is perfect in terms of not requiring them to put into words how they feel. When they're so stressed that they would find it impossible to express themselves.
Sure.
But also, when I then describe which flower essences have cropped up, they then are fascinated and come alive. Now then, once they open up and explain more and more to me, then I can explain to them that with each chakra, it relates to the 7 ages of man.
Mm.
So as you said, the base chakra takes you from birth to 7 years.
Mm.
The sacral takes you from 7 to 14, the solar plexus from 14 to 21. And all the way through till you get to the crown chakra, which takes you to 49, at which point you do not drop off the universe, we start all over again.
Yeah.
So from 49 to 56, we go back to the base, and all the way through. The wonderful thing that Anna taught me was that once I have helped someone to stabilize themselves, I can then focus on whatever trauma they had, whatever particular part of their life, by working on the group of flower essences that related to that age. So, in a wonderful way, I can unravel knots. But again, it doesn't matter what age you are, how open you are. Sometimes it's impossible to express what you're going through or what's happened to you. And this gives me a chance to help people to help themselves. And I would like to stress that this is not a question of me healing somebody. It's a question of, it's a statement of the fact that I'm able to help people to help themselves.
Which I think is the most powerful thing to be able to do. I mean, what I did notice, I mean, I've had a treatment from you, and what is absolutely crystal clear to me is the accuracy of the essences that you picked for me in terms of where I'm in my life at the moment. The essences that you picked were spot on. And as you said, it enabled dialogue to either agree or disagree with what the essences were about. And I found in my experience with working with you that they were spot on. And I've heard other people that you've treated say that it's just spot on. It's uncannily accurate. It's like a laser accuracy. And what I like about it is, as you said, sometimes we can't put into words what is occurring for us because the emotion could be just so bad, or we cannot express fully or understand what the emotion's about. But what I find was really powerful was it does open up dialogue, and it does enable me to certainly heal. And I find that very powerful indeed, specifically because, say, like through normal counselling, where you look at exploring emotions and how you feel, and sometimes it's just not possible to express how you feel because it's just a feeling. You may not know what the root cause is. It just occurs sometimes. So I'm fascinated by the fact that you don't need to have that dialogue. So like you said, with animals, with young children, with babies that may not be able to have dialogue with you. Also, I mean, another thing I thought about was often children on the autistic spectrum may be totally non-verbal. They're very intelligent people, and yet they may not have that verbal ability. The possibility is endless. So I'm really fascinated by the whole concept of Bach flower therapy. So I'd just like to thank you very much indeed for explaining about the background, about how it works, and how you help people. So thank you, Suzi.
Thank you.